All right. Well, happy Monday. I hope you all had a good weekend. And yeah, I think I don't know. I imagine some of your classes. Well, have you been to every single one of your classes yet? No, not yet, right? So some of them are like Monday, Wednesday only, or something, or maybe Tuesday, Thursday only, and you haven't been to them. So I hope all your classes are exciting and fun. Okay, so we went through like introductory stuff, and then like I had like um I had a bunch of stuff to say, and then every time I go through it, I feel like this old man shouting at sky. But uh, but I wanted to give the rest of my spiel, right? So I think I talked about how grades don't define you, and I shared a little bit of my personal story and whatnot, and yeah, especially for those of you who are freshmen. Um, I don't know where you guys stand, and I do hope you can have a healthy relationship between your perception of self and external things, okay? And there's not a direct relationship. Your value as a person doesn't come from your grades or your money or your things like that, okay? All of those things, sure, it's nice, but your value intrinsically um, is not based on any of that. And yeah, it was a hard lesson for me to learn, but I'm grateful for it. And so the flip side, I know sometimes students get frustrated with me in particular because, uh, you know, like I know you're like when someone's upset, the last thing you're supposed to tell them is just calm down. But, um, but it's kind of just like I know it feels like whatever this little assignment I gave to you feels really important in all of these points, and it's like it's not even the points, it's the principle or something. But it's just like just take a step back. It's this is like one class that, in the grand scheme of things, not a huge, not a huge deal. And I'm saying that about my own class. I think it's a great class, but and I hope you enjoy it. I do want to talk a little bit about work-life balance, um, because this is something that I imagine you will have to face and struggle with and deal with, uh, really for the rest of your life. Okay, for the rest of your life, there will be 24 hours in a day. Okay, and for the rest of your life, there will be. Can I ask somebody to just close the door to the hallway? Thank you. There's going to be a bunch of things trying to get your time and attention and energy. Okay. And there's just never going to be enough time to do everything. Okay. Um, I broadly have three big categories of things. So, one, I say work. Okay. And that's going to include literal work, like when you're working and have a job, or maybe you have an internship or something. But I would put school and academics in that category of work. There's other professional obligations. Maybe you're part of a club, or you have, different kinds of things. You have another big category is relationships. Your relationships with other people, and this will include family, friends. Maybe you're in a romantic relationship, or any other kind of social obligations. Okay, and then you have to take care of yourself, right? And so this is taking care of your physical health, like getting sleep and eating well and exercising, and taking care of your mental health, taking care of your spiritual health. And again, 24 hours in a day, it's not possible to give 100% to every single one of these categories. And um, and I believe you can achieve work-life balance where you are content, okay, by making conscious decisions about what is important to you and devoting your time and energy accordingly, okay? And in general, the more time and energy you put into something, that aspect of your life in general will flourish, okay? And when you ignore other aspects, right? If you don't put a lot of time and energy into this other stuff, in general, those aspects of your life will diminish. Okay? And that's just naturally what's going to happen. And if you can be okay with that kind of just natural process of this part flourishing and this part diminishing, and if you say, hey, I'm satisfied with my choices, then I think you can have a good work life balance. If you feel like everything in my life needs to flourish and I need to give time and energy to this, and I need to give time and energy to this, and I need to give time and energy to this, because I need everything in my life flourishing, then you will burn out. Okay. And well, probably what happens is you give all of your time and energy to these things, and probably what happens is you neglect yourself, and then you neglect yourself too long, then you burn out and you're like exhausted, either physically, mentally, spiritually, all of these things. You didn't take care of these things. So the you have to choose what's important to you, devote your time accordingly. Other things will diminish, and be okay with that, right? And I have just kind of a silly example, and then because this often happens, you might have like a social a group of friends, and you guys are all good buddies with one another, and then perhaps one day you get involved in a romantic relationship, okay, and so now you're spending devoting a lot of time and energy to your romantic relationship, and this aspect of your life is now flourishing, okay, and it's fun, exciting, and you're getting to know another person closely and whatnot, but perhaps you're not spending as much time as you were before with your original group of friends, okay, and just naturally what's going to happen is those friendships over time will diminish a little bit, okay, and it might come to a point where one day those group of friends go off and do something and you weren't invited, and it can be hurtful when you're faced with the reality that, oh yeah, you know what, I'm not as close as I used to be, okay, and it's not like they're necessarily trying to have revenge on you or anything. It's just, yeah, you're not as close as you used to be, okay, and if you can kind of accept that, you don't have to be bitter or jealous or anything like that, okay. Similarly, when you go off working, all right, you might be at a company that wants all of your time and attention and energy, okay, and they might say, hey, we've got this big project, we're going to launch this new thing, this new product, or we're going to do this, and we need everybody, and you can do that, and you can be a good team player and put a bunch of time and energy. Other aspects of your life during that time might not flourish as much. They might diminish a little bit, okay? Or you can say, hey, no, I need to draw a boundary, all right? I need to make sure I'm still giving time and attention to, my romantic partner, or I have a family or whatever, okay? I'm not going to do all the things that the company's asking of me, okay? Naturally, maybe other people at the job, they're going to get promoted ahead of you. I don't know, okay? But if you can say, hey, I'm happy with my choices, I think you can be happy. All right. And then, yeah, self-care is important. This is not just an empty platitude that I say and say, oh, self-care is important. I truly, honestly believe this. Okay. All of this stuff that you're learning in class, all of that, the way your brain learns things is it forms new connections, like between your neurons and stuff in your brain, and that happens when you sleep, okay, and when you sleep, it clears out all of this kind of junk and stuff. It's really important that you get enough sleep, and I don't know, again, I feel like I'm my mom saying, like, are you sleeping enough? But it is important, okay, and that's not to say you're not allowed to stay up late, okay? Because, looking back when I was in college, like some of like my best memories, core memories, happened at like 2 a.m. when I was hanging out with friends and we were having a great time and things like that, okay? And I think that's great, okay? But yeah, overall, make sure you do get some sleep that is important. Okay. Um, and so when I say self-care is important, one of the things that might mean is there might be a day where you don't finish your homework. Okay. Um, and or you might choose not to finish your homework. Okay. And what that means is you will lose points on your homework. Okay. And that's a deliberate choice, right? Obviously, if you can do your homework, I'm your teacher. I have to say, like, please do your homework. But if it comes down to a point where it's like, okay, I need to take care of myself. Okay, I haven't been getting sleep because I've been doing all of this other stuff, and I need to take care of myself. And so today, I'm going to choose to sleep, and that means I'm not going to finish my homework. Okay, yeah, you're going to lose points on your homework, and I want you to be okay with that decision. That's an okay decision to make. Own up to the consequences of that decision, which is, you know, you didn't do your homework, so you lose points on that. But you can say, hey, you know what? I'm making a choice here. Okay. And then I throw in this slide here, which is just this warning against fruitless entertainment. Okay. Entertainment is important. Okay. It's important that we do fun things. It's important that we do things that we enjoy. It's important we hang out with people we like. We need to, watch TV, read a book, play games, do all kinds of stuff that you enjoy doing. Okay, that's good for your mental health. But it's important to remember that when you do these entertaining activities, the goal ultimately is to improve your well-being. Okay, the goal is to improve your well-being or the well-being of someone else. Okay, but to improve that. And unfortunately, there is a class of, activities and apps that have been designed through data science so they know exactly what to put in the algorithm to hook you and to be addictive. Okay, and they're designed so that it plays a video, and then before you can even think about it, the next video starts playing, and it's just it's hijacked the dopamine reward system of your brain just so that you don't want to look away, and you can end up like losing hours of time to this thing, and at the end of it, okay, it feels like okay at the moment as you're doing it, but then at the end of it, it hasn't improved your well-being, right? It hasn't improved you don't, I don't know, like if you do one of these real actual entertaining activities, like you hang out with a good friend all day, like you come home and you feel like, oh, that was great. Okay. I want to hang out with it again. Okay. But sometimes you do one of these apps that just suck all of your energy, and then you're done and you just feel like crap at the end. Okay. That's not great. All right. And I also hate to say it, there might be some people like this, right? Where you hang out with them for the day and you just come home and you feel like crap at the end. Maybe you go, oh, I shouldn't hang out with this person as much. But yeah, just be mindful of these things and be selective. If you recognize that, like, hey, you know what, this is not a healthy thing for me to be spending a ton of time on, try to set up some guardrails for yourself there. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. You'll figure it out. Okay. But yeah, I want you to have fun, but I want it to be stuff that makes you feel better. Okay. All right. So that's enough about my spiel. Thanks for listening to me go on about that. And let's start talking about data analysis, data science, and I want to talk about this idea of reproducible data analysis. Okay, and what this means is that when you produce some kind of report and you've got tables, you've got figures, you've got results and conclusions, okay, someone else can ask you and say, how did you get that? How did you get those numbers? How did you get this? And you are able to reproduce all of these things based on your code and your data. Okay, and so there's kind of two key aspects that we need to enable this to happen. One is we need what we call scripts. Okay, and so we are going to use code as opposed to a point and click tool like Excel. Right, so you can actually do quite a bit of data analysis and stuff on Excel. And as far as like introductory data, like it's not, Excel is not powerful enough to do like all of the stuff we want to do, but as far as like a lot of the basic stuff, Excel, Google Sheets, you can do quite a bit. Okay, but if you wanted to have someone else reproduce your same results, you don't have an easy way. You have to be like, okay, click this menu, click this thing, select this column, and all of this point and click things, it's not really being recorded. Okay, but instead, if we use a script, okay, and we say run this command, or actually just run all of the commands in this script, all of the results will be reproduced. Okay, and so for this, we are choosing to use R, or I'm choosing to use R, and I'm forcing that choice upon you. But I think it's a great, it is a great tool. Okay, and then the other part is we are going to use a system called Quarto, but there's related ones like R Markdown and Jupyter Notebooks that it blends, or not blends, but combines all of the different aspects. It combines the code that we run to produce our tables and figures and results. Okay, it also combines the narrative being I'm explaining what these results mean. Okay, and all of those kinds of outputs, they're combined into one document. Okay, versus I don't know if you ever had this experience. Maybe you had to do a lab in high school or another class where you use Excel, you put your data in Excel, you create a graph in Excel, and what do? You have to copy the graph from Excel and paste it into your Word document. Okay, and then maybe later on you want to make a change. Okay, then you have to go back to Excel, make those changes, and then copy and paste it, right? And then we had the experience where like as soon as you move an image in Word, like suddenly all of the stuff gets rearranged. The tables like suddenly jump around, and it can be a frustrating experience, right? Maybe the numbers have changed, and then so now you have to go through, right? Maybe when you first ran it, like the most popular color was red, and then you copy and paste that into your from Excel down into your document, and then as you do it, like you're like, oh no, I made a mistake, and actually the most popular color is blue. Okay, and then now you have to go back to your Word document and you have to like find and replace, and you have to say like, okay, find all of the instances of red and replace it with blue, and like so we don't want to have these two separate tools that we have to like jump back and forth between. Okay, and so we're going to use kind of this one system that unifies all of this. This is called Quarto, but we can also use R Markdown or Jupyter and things like that allow us to kind of combine all of this, so there's no jumping back and forth. And as you update things, everything else gets updated as well. Okay, and so for this, I'm going to introduce basically the different tools that we are going to use. Okay, so we are going to use R and RStudio. Okay, R is a statistical programming language. It's open source, it's free, it's extensible, meaning we can add on packages and things like that. And the reason why R is so popular among data science and data analytics is that it was designed with statistics and data analysis as its first priority. Okay, it was designed with that in mind, so everything was kind of designed around that. It is not a general purpose programming language though. Okay, you have languages like Python, C++. These are more general purpose, and And so R is not well suited for doing things that are not related to data and statistics. Okay, so if you want to create a website, do not use R. All right, you want to create, you have a whole bunch of like web frameworks, like JavaScript, a whole bunch of stuff. JavaScript was designed for like websites in mind and stuff like that. Okay, and Python, again, general purpose. It can be done to create websites. It can be used for data analysis. It can be used for all kinds of different things, and it does all of these different things fairly well. But I would say R still holds the edge when it comes to straight data analysis. Okay. We also have something called RStudio. RStudio is what's called an interface or an integrated development environment. It's basically it sits on R. You can think of R as kind of like the engine, and RStudio being like all of the dashboard and controls inside your car. Okay, and the way you interact with the engine and all of the different features of the car and stuff is through these buttons and things. Okay, you can technically use R all by itself without RStudio. Okay, it's a lot more tedious. Okay, RStudio adds a lot of kind of like nice features that just make our life easier. Okay, it's made by a company called Posit, and it is free for personal use. If you are a business, then you have to pay money to Posit. Okay, and they charge a lot of money for business licenses, I think like $1,000 per user per year or something like that. Okay, but for personal use, academic use, stuff like that, it's free and it's excellent. It's the best. Okay, and then R is extensible, and we use packages, or they're also called libraries. Okay, and these are sets of code that have, include things like functions, data, documentation for how to use those functions and things like that. And you can basically load them into R, and it will extend R's capabilities. So these are kind of like accessories and things that you can add on to R. And there are lots of packages, over 20,000 packages available out there. They're all free. They all do different kinds of things. It's one of the best things about R, but can also be one of the most frustrating things about R, is because not every single package plays nicely with each other. Some of the packages do things one way, other packages do another way. So you want to kind of, whatever package you want to use, you have to become familiar with it. Okay, you can almost think of R packages as like apps, for your phone or your tablet, right? And you kind of like download them, and then suddenly it adds new features. Like you can now do additional things that you really couldn't do before and stuff like that. Okay, and so to install a package, sorry, I don't know why there's a C here. Okay, but to install a package, you install it. Okay, and you type in install.packages, and you put in the name of the package, and then, okay, I'm missing some stuff here. And then we're going to load that up. So let me just kind of give you a brief kind of tour of how we're going to get started here. Oh, okay, let me give you also your first view quiz answer before I forget. Okay, week 1, Monday. All right, I'm gonna have to, sorry, I think I uploaded an old version of my notes onto the website, so I'm gonna have to fix that up. Okay, first letter today is the letter A. A as in apple. A as in apple is your first view quiz answer. A as in apple. Okay, so you have a few options for getting started with R and RStudio. Okay, probably for most of you, I would say download and install R and RStudio onto your computer. Okay, but if your primary computer is a Chromebook or an iPad, okay, you will not be able to download and install R in RStudio. And so for there is another option where you can use RStudio within your web browser. Okay, and so this will work for anybody who's on a Chromebook or iPad, or really, and if you don't want to install R in RStudio onto your own computer, you can also just use the cloud-based version. Okay, so let me just show you the cloud-based version, and that is at posit.cloud. So Posit is the company that creates RStudio, and then you have .cloud, and this will give you your thing. So I think it will ask you to create an account. Okay, if you don't have an account, you're going to sign up and then log in, or you can just click login with Google, I think, and that will get you access. Posit.cloud. And we're just going to do posit.cloud. I think there's like different objects in there. Posit cloud. And you'll say, I want to create a new project or something. I think I already have a new project running or created, and you'll do this. So Posit Cloud, there's different tiers. There's the free tier, which gives you some basic computing, not super powerful, and so it's probably enough to get started. Later on, if you need more power and stuff like that, you might have to go up to a paid account. Okay, but anyway, that's Posit Cloud, and that's available as long as you have the internet. So Chromebooks, iPad users, you can use Posit Cloud. Okay, everybody else, and I think this is most of you, you're going to want to install R. Okay, so you just go to Google, you type in R, and probably the first hit will be rproject.org. Okay, the R project for statistical computing. So you're going to download and install R. Okay. And over on the left-hand side, it says download, and it has this, they call it CRAN, and this is like the Comprehensive R Archive Network or something. I don't know. Just under download, this is confusing to everybody, but just click CRAN. This is where you're going to download it from. And you have all of these different sites that you can choose from. Pick some place in the USA. So, I don't know, Iowa State, University of Michigan, it doesn't matter, okay? You're going to click one of those, and then you'll choose download for Windows or download for Mac or download for Linux. I think actually I have a link over here to one of the link to download RStudio. Let's see. Okay, well, it says download and install R, step 1, and then install RStudio. So if you click download and install R, yeah, it takes you to this same thing. And then, you can click download R for Windows or download R for Mac OS, and you'll just download the appropriate one. So for Windows, install R for the first time, download R 4.5.1, okay, or R for Mac OS. Depending on if you have like Apple Silicon, like an M1 or M2 or M3 chip, you'll download one of these. If you have an older Mac that uses an Intel chip, you can download this. Okay, and so you're going to download and install R, and that should be fine. Okay, and then the other part. So once you download and install R, then you're going to download RStudio. Okay, it says step 2, install RStudio. You're going to click that, and actually I don't want to download it, and you'll download and install that. Okay, and if you need help getting, and if you're on Mac, I think when you download RStudio, it's going to download like a little drive, and then you open up the drive, and what you want to do is you want to drag the RStudio icon into the applications folder if you're on Mac. Okay, and that's going to copy and install RStudio onto your computer rather than opening it from the drive package that you download from Mac. Okay, so that will install RStudio. Okay, and then so this is what it So when you start up RStudio, I think it will look something like this here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start it up over here on my computer. So this is Posit Cloud. This is RStudio in my web browser, and then this this is RStudio on my home local computer here. Okay, and so I think it'll start up like this, looking something like this, maybe. Okay, you don't have to follow along right now. You can just kind of sit and watch. And so it just gives you all of this kind of legal text in the beginning, and you start off in the console. Okay, and there are going to be 4 panes. Okay, in the top right we have the environment, and we have other tabs. We have the history, connections tutorial we generally don't use, but basically the environment is probably the most important one. And then in the lower right, probably the most important tabs here will be help, and then plots, maybe packages, and maybe files, but probably help and plots over here. Okay, and then over here is the console, and this part is where you can kind of just interact with R directly. Okay, as you are working on things, you're going to have probably a script open, and that will be that will open up in the top left. So over here, what I'm going to do in RStudio is I'm going to say File, New File, and I think I'm going to do a Quarto document. Okay. If it's your very first time, let me see. If I do New File, Quarto document, it might ask you to install stuff. All right, so here we can do this, or I can render to a PDF, things like that, and it's going to create a new pane up here to. It's taking a while here, but it's going to create a new pane up there for me to interact with or something, and I'm going to just click New Quarto document. It's going to ask me what kind, and you can do. I can output to a HTML, PDF, or Word. I'll just do a PDF. Okay, and it creates this. Okay, and so this is basically the document I'm working on, and then down here is the console. And so within the console, you can type, mathematical commands. So you can say, hey, what is 6 plus 7? Okay, and I hit enter. Okay, and it says it's 13. Okay, gives me a little square bracket 1 because that means like it's the first value in a vector, and there's only just one value here, but the answer is 13. Okay, and you can do other things, mathematical operations. So I can do 6 star 7 for 6 times 7. I get 42. Okay, huh? I don't know what 7. Okay, you can do powers. Okay, caret. So you can say like 6 to the 3rd power, 216. Division, 6 divided by 7. I don't know. Okay, so you have different things there. Okay, we can create objects. Okay, and refer to them later. And so I think this week I've assigned like an introduction to R on DataCamp and an introduction to the Tidyverse on DataCamp. And so that will kind of introduce you to a bunch of these things. But let's say you want to have a value that you want to use later. All right, so you can say, all right, let's take the name X, and I'm going to use this assignment operator. Here, I don't know if you guys can see. Okay, which is kind of the less than dash, like a little arrow, and we can assign something, and I'll say I want to take the value 10 and put that into X. And if I hit enter, it doesn't look like anything has happened in the console, but you'll notice in the environment, it says, hey, you've got this thing called X, and it has the value of 10 there. Okay, And then so then I can do things like, okay, what is x times 2, right? And it's going to say, okay, that's 20, right? You can have a bunch of values together, right? And we can create a vector, and we use the function c to kind of combine all of these things together. So I can say, and I'm going to create, I guess I'll create a vector called y. Okay, and c, I will put in the numbers 11 and 15 and 25. Okay, so here's y. It's the values 11, 15, and 25. And I can do things like, okay, what is y times 2? Okay, and it's going to take each value there, and it's going to say, oh, y times 2, you're going to get 22, 30, and 50. Okay. Y itself is still 11, 15, and 25. I can ask for things like, what is the mean of y? And it'll calculate the average. Okay, things like that. Okay. You can even do something like, is x less than y? Right? And it's comparing x, which is 10, and it's comparing it to 11, 15, and 25. X is less than 11, true. X is less than 15, true. X is less than 25, true. Things like that. Okay. So anyway, that's how you interact with y. Okay. Meanwhile, we also have scripts up here. Okay, so we have this script here, and right now it just says Quarto, and I can click this button, which is render the current document. So when you actually create a new Quarto document, it just automatically puts stuff in there. Okay, and you can see it says Quarto enables you to weave together content and executable code into a finished document. This uses what's known as markdown formatting, and so you put headings. You use little hash marks to indicate headlines, okay? So 1 hash is top level 1 heading. It's at the top. 2 hash marks is a level 2 heading. 3 hash marks is a level 3 heading. Kind of just like thinking indents on here, okay? So it says Quarto is this, and then when you click the render button, a document that includes both content and output will be run. Okay, and so here this is the narrative. This is just the regular text, and this here, where you see these triple ticks, bracket R 1 + 1. This is known as a code chunk. Okay, and so this basically says it's a code chunk. The triple ticks indicate a code chunk. The bracket R means we're doing our code. Okay, you can have a Quarto document that has Python code, and you type in py for Python, or maybe you type in Python, okay? But anyway, we're going to do 1 + 1, and so right here you don't actually see the output yet, okay? But you can click this little play button, and this will run the code that's in this code chunk. And so if I click play, it will say, ah, yeah, 1 + 1 is 2, okay? And we have that, okay? You have other options that you can add. So let's say you just wanted the number 4 to appear, but you didn't want the math to show up. You can put in this option, and this is this hash bar, which just says, hey, here we have an option about this code chunk, echo false. This means don't echo or don't repeat what I've written in this code here. Yeah, question?
Is that a global modifier, or is that just...
It's just for this particular code chunk. So this
but like the whole code chunk and not just that line?
The whole code chunk, yeah. Okay, and anyway, so yeah, it says echo false, only option disables the printing of code. All right, and so anyway, if I click this render button, right, it's going to say, hey, where do you want to save this? Okay, so I'm going to just save it to my desktop, and we'll just call this, I don't know, demo. When the first time you run Quarto, it might ask you, like, do you want to install these other packages, something like TinyTech or whatever like that. Just go ahead and click yes, okay? XeLaTeX. All right, and so this has now shows the output of all of this, okay? And so let me give you your second view quiz answer. Second answer today is the letter B. B as in bear. Okay, B as in bear. Yep. All right. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just delete this stuff out. Okay. And I don't know, this, I'll just call this, let's explore. Okay. And so if you want to add your own code chunk, you can use this button here. Okay. Or if you hover over it, it tells you what shortcut you can use. So on Windows, it's Control-Alt-I. I think on Mac, it's Control-Option-I, I think. I don't remember. But you hover over this, and it says you can add a code chunk. You can add different kinds of code chunks. We're just going to add an R code chunk. And what I want to do is I want to load up the library tidyverse. Okay. Now, if you've never used the tidyverse before, the first time you try to load it up, it might say no. I don't know if I have the tidyverse installed. Okay, you might get this error. It says there's no package called tidyverse. So what I have to do is I have to install the package tidyverse. Okay, now this is important. Do not in your script put in the line install that package's tidyverse. Okay, because what that means is every time you render the document, it's going to run through all of the code, and it's going to reinstall the tidyverse package every single time you render. You don't want to do that. Okay, you just install it once, and you can do it in the command line here. Okay, or you can click over to the packages pane. All right, so I have the packages pane over here, and then you can click this button install, and you just say, hey, I want to install the tidyverse. Okay, and then you click install. It's already installed on my computer, so I'll just do it over here. I'm going to click this button that says install. I'm going to type in tidyverse. Okay, and click install. And this is, again, it's kind of like downloading and installing the app. You don't need to redo this every single. Once you do it once, that's probably fine. Okay, unless you find out, oh, there's an update, then you can install the update. But you definitely do not want to write install.packages in your code here, because every time you click this render, it runs through all of the code here, and it's going to reinstall it every single time, and that's going to like take forever. Okay, but all right, and then yeah, and then so you can see it's like downloading a whole bunch of stuff, and it takes a while. Okay, but I have it over here, and then so. But what I do want is I do want to use the tidyverse, okay? And so for this, I'm going to type in library tidyverse, okay? I think another thing I want is library Palmer, oh, maybe I don't have that installed, Palmer Penguins. Okay, this is going to include data. Okay, we're going to so I'm gonna load these things up. All right, so we're gonna load up the tidyverse. I'm gonna load up Palmer Penguins. Okay, and then what I want to do now is I want to load up the data from the penguins. Okay, and there's a penguins data set. Okay, so this will call in. Actually, I want this in my script. Okay, so in my script, I'm going to have the tidyverse, load up the tidyverse, load up the package Palmer Penguins and data penguins. Okay, and again, if any of these things that says, hey, you don't have this package installed, you go over the package tab, you click the install button, you type in the name of the package you need to install. Okay. But again, don't put install.packages in your script. Okay, so if I type in data penguins, what appears over here in my environment now, it says, oh, you got the penguins, you got penguins raw, and I can click this, right? And it's going to show some of the penguins here, okay? It says forest penguins, and it says here we've got a Tibble. Tibble is what the tidyverse basically calls a table, okay? But it's got some features and stuff, right? And it says a tibble 344x8, right? So basically there's 344 rows, 8 columns, and it just shows a few of these first columns. We got the species, island, bill length, bill depth. So basically the Palmer penguins data set is kind of this data set where they collected information about penguins. Researchers went down to Antarctica. They visited, I think, 3 different islands, I want to say, and they recorded different information about different penguins there, and they wanted to know if the original research was interested in what's called sexual dimorphism, which is basically in some species the male looks different from the female, kind of like generally speaking, male lions have a mane and female lions generally don't. I mean, it's possible for a female lion to have a mane and things like that. And they're just like wondering, like, okay, with a penguin, is there a difference between male penguins and female penguins and things like that, right? And so they looked at 3 different species of penguins: chinstrap penguins, gentoo penguins, adelie penguins, and then they measured things like how long is their bill and how deep is their bill, and then I think like flipper length and stuff like that, and basically they collected all of this data, and we can explore it, and we're gonna run out of time, but anyway, this data is in here, and you can kind of click this little blue button, this little play button here, and this will load up, or this will expand some information. It will kind of show you all of the different variables. So it's there's 8 variables: species, island, bill length, bill depth, flipper length, body mass, the sex, and I guess the year in which that data was collected. If you want to take a look at it, you can also type in capital V view. You don't want to put this in your script. This is more so just like an interactive thing. You can type in capital V view penguins, and it will bring it up kind of like a spreadsheet where you have the different rows and the different columns. Okay, and you have this information. So we will, I guess we'll pause here for now, and we'll continue this on. Just kind of exploring some of these tools. I'm not expecting everybody to know how to do anything just yet, but I'm just trying to get you familiar with our tool set. I do want you to try to either download and install R&R Studio on your own computer, or at least open up a Posit Cloud account and load up RStudio on Posit Cloud there. Okay, let me give you your last view quiz answer, which is the letter E. E as in elephant. E as in elephant. Okay, and so we'll end here. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.